Witaj w podcaście Biznes Marketer, w którym prezentujemy sprawdzone metody wsparcia sprzedaży dzięki nowoczesnemu marketingowi B2B. W tym odcinku bonus, wywiad z Uwe Siebacherem, ekspertem marketingu B2B. Zapraszam serdecznie, Łukasz Kosuniak. W tym odcinku czekają nas dwie zmiany. Po pierwsze, odchodzimy od formuły audiobooka. Wrócimy do niej oczywiście. Cała książka ABC Marketingu B2B będzie dostarczona za darmo, ale mamy po raz pierwszy wywiad. Po drugie, będzie to wywiad w języku angielskim z Uwe Siebacherem, osobą, która moim zdaniem w tej chwili nadaje ton współczesnemu marketingowi B2B. Uwe to jest osoba, która w tej chwili zarządza bardzo dużą operacją marketingową w sektorze przemysłowym, ale też posiada bardzo rozległe doświadczenie międzynarodowe, co jest bardzo ważne w obszarze marketingu B2B w Stanach Zjednoczonych, w Ameryce Południowej, wreszcie w kilku krajach europejskich. Ma też doświadczenie konsultingowe, co wpłynęło też na jego takie bardzo procesowe podejście do marketingu B2B. A to, gdzie nasze drogi się spotkały, to były dwa projekty wydawnicze. Uwe zaprosił mnie do projektu stworzenia takiego europejskiego podręcznika marketingu B2B i tak powstała książka B2B Marketing from the Classroom to the Boardroom. I to jest bardzo ciekawy projekt. Po pierwsze, właśnie dlatego, że zaangażował ponad 30 ekspertów marketingu B2B z całej Europy. To znaczy będziecie mogli zobaczyć tą szerszą perspektywę, ale z drugiej strony zobaczycie też, czytając tą książkę, jak podobne są te problemy, jak wielu marketerów zmaga się z tymi samymi wyzwaniami, no i jak można tym wyzwaniom podołać. Jest tam bardzo dużo też case studies, to jest bardzo, bardzo ciekawe i bardzo dużo wnosi wartości do tej książki, a mój wkład to jest rozdział o tym, jak połączyć naukę i sztukę, zarządzając content marketingiem B2B. Stworzyliśmy tam pewną ramę taką metodyczną do tego, żeby zarządzać nie tylko produkcją, ale planowaniem, właśnie produkcją, promocją i pomiarem efektywności działań content marketingowych, tak żeby to rzeczywiście był proces biznesowy. Ale to jest, tak jak powiedziałem, tylko jedna z kilkudziesięciu części tej książki. Bardzo Was zachęcam do zajrzenia. Ona już jest w tej chwili w przedsprzedaży w wydawnictwie Springer. Druga książka, którą mieliśmy okazję współtworzyć, to jest dużo krótsza książka, nazywa się Podstawy Marketingu B2B i jest już też dostępna na Amazonie w języku polskim, co ważne. I właśnie tą polskojęzyczną część współtworzyłem razem z Uwe. Bazą do tego jest bardzo ciekawa metodyka, którą Uwe opracował, czyli taka analiza dojrzałości marketingowej, dzięki której, bo to jest narzędzie taki tak zwany self-assessment i dzięki temu można sobie ocenić, w którym momencie jesteś Ty jako marketer czy Twój dział marketingu, po to, żeby zaplanować kolejne kroki i oczywiście te kolejne kroki w taki właściwy dla siebie bardzo metodyczny sposób Uwe proponuje, a ja to rozwijam i staram się uszczegółowić, tak żeby to było dla polskiego czytelnika też bardzo przydatne. Zapraszam Was oczywiście do zapoznania się z tymi książkami, ale przede wszystkim dziś zapraszam Was do zapoznania się i wysłuchania wywiadu z Uwe. Moim zdaniem jest tutaj bardzo dużo mięsa, no właśnie dlatego, że Uwe jest praktykiem, to jest osoba, która sama wprowadza zmiany, które potem opisuje, a ponieważ ma to doświadczenie konsultingowe, to umie też pewne rzeczy sparametryzować i stworzyć z tego pewne szablony, można powiedzieć, które można potem wykorzystywać w innych biznesach. Także zapraszam Was na wywiad z Uwe Siebacherem. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Uwe Siebacher. I introduced Uwe briefly at the beginning, but I want Uwe you to introduce yourself, especially your professional background and the thing I found on your social media feed, also your polo hobby. So maybe let's start with your professional background. You have a huge experience. So can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Okay, Lucas. Welcome everybody, and thanks for having me. It's my great pleasure to be able to talk to your community and being guest of your podcast, which I've seen as a far reach. My background is basically I got a PhD in economics and business administration in the area of finance, HR, and organizational development. I was then working for Deloitte Consulting, one of the large American consultancy brands.
Mhm.
And then I was working for Perot System, that's an IT company based in Dallas, for which we did IT outsourcing, SAP implementation, the first e-commerce, e-billing, ECRM solutions. So I was engaged in the product development, key account management, business development, sales in that area. I was responsible for the DACH region, and I still remember the meetings with Ross Perot. The older
Mm.
listeners might know this
Oh yeah.
former ex-US president candidate. And then what I did is I turned self-employed. I developed my own consultancy, methods consulting company. And in those days, I developed a template-driven consulting
Mhm.
approach, which is now being republished by Springer, called template-based management. And I also developed a publishing company because I worked for the European Union in the area of leadership development, and we did a huge study about more than 1,000 companies, interviewing them. And the idea was to publish these results, to make it accessible. And my dear colleagues from the universities, it took them very long to publish their books. And at the end of the project, I had my own book, and Springer offered me to publish it, but I said I want to be quicker, and then that's how I got into publishing company, and then I developed my own company with over 500 books, so I know how the publishing business is working. Due to private reasons, then I sold my companies because my parents, frankly, said that either my sister or myself have to get back to Austria because they are retired. And due to the fact that my sister lives in the US, and her husband is engaged in the our automotive industry, it was not easy to them for them to move back to Europe. So I sold the companies, moved back to Austria in to 2012, and then yes, then I used the time to get into polo because living in Uruguay, and for 3 years. Also, we got into this equestrian sport. My wife is a Western horse rider for many years, but I got in Uruguay in the polo sport, and
Mhm.
then I played polo and set up a company. The Jakie Polo Sports is a global luxury lifestyle polo brand where we have fashion, textiles, apparel, and equipment, and also our own breed. And after 5 years, an international group came across around the core and asked me whether I would be interested to join them as a global director for marketing and communication. And this was in June 2017 when I joined the Andritz Group. That's an industry group with more than about 30,000 people worldwide. We have 7 billion order intake. We're in the water business, in the separation business, in the pulp and paper business, and in the metals business. And since then, basically, I totally turned upside down the marketing from a real coloring in department in those days. And we started with market automation, with lead generation. We started with the inbound lead generation, with lead scanning.
Mhm.
And then after a year, I was dedicated to also be responsible for strategy and business development and sales channel management and key account management. And then we also got awarded with the predictive intelligence. So this means we are now also basically we are the driver with the figures of market intelligence, business intelligence, CRM data, project data, market data. And so we're now basically marketing strategy, sales, and predictive intelligence. And now I'm heading this kind of, I think, really interesting department and driving that business. And that's where I am today. And to the Corona crisis, we used the time that Springer asked me to publish a book on the B2B Marketing Guidebook,
Yeah, we
and
get there.
some
Yeah.
other books I published. So I think we did a lot of good work with this, more than 30 authors. So that's what I am. My hobbies are playing the jazz piano. I did a jazz degree in piano. My kids play the piano. I have 3 kids, a daughter, Ella, two boys, Paul and Tim, now 16 and 18. They all play polo. My wife, Yvonne, she's a pharmacist. And so, yes, and now we live all in Austria. And we're happy and safe and healthy, and going through the COVID crisis.
Perfect. So we have a man of the Renaissance here, and then right now I can understand, because what amazed me in cooperating with you is how efficient you are in producing content. I was involved in many different publishing projects. I have my own book, a set of video courses, but every time you engage in a new project, I'm amazed how fast is it. And right now I start to understand that you have great experience in just producing high quality content, and you know how to make it very efficient in so that's also valuable for me. So my first question in terms of the business topic of our podcast is I'd like you to tell us what's your thought about the current status of B2B marketing in Europe, especially in comparison to the US, because you have a huge experience here and many other countries. Are there any similarities between European countries? Is there any trend pattern you see right now developing? What's your view on that?
I think overall, and that's a really good question, Lucas, B2B marketing is the right point in time to be in B2B marketing. It has never been a better time. And Joel Harrison from B2B Marketing in London put it that B2B marketing has come of age. This means it's now mature enough and it will be the driver. And organizations not being aware of that and not being able of taking advantage of leading edge B2B marketing will lose out on the market. So this is overall this scenario in B2B marketing. Now, having said that, there is a huge divergence between B2B marketing in Central Europe and the Anglo-American environment. Because if you look back to the organization etymological approach, B2B marketing, industrial marketing, has emerged as a kind of a luxury. B2B marketers were either the former secretaries or the people positioned in B2B marketing not to make any harm in any other part of the organization. So, and these departments initially were asked to organize golf tournaments or parties or trade shows.
Yeah.
Not really necessarily to create added value order intake.
Yeah.
And in the US, due to the fact that only taken the fact that the percentage of CMOs in organizations is much higher than in other parts in the world, reflects the fact that in the US, the awareness, the sensitivity, the US industry, US market has always been market driven, surprisingly, because big brands are coming from the US. And looking at the European industry, we are a very conservative industry, very heavy industry, and not marketing driven. So, and now there is a huge paradigm shift because, and Joel Harrison, again, I have to quote him because he's sitting in the island in Britain, and he has an overview about the divergence. He says, in regard to the awareness of B2B marketing, America might be a little bit ahead, like 5 to 10 years. But we in Europe approach a topic from a much more structured, tangible, KPI-driven way. So, and now we have to get the best of both worlds in order to enable the development, enable our dear colleagues, because also the educational sector and management development in universities does not provide what we need in order to really get ahead and be able to contribute to the sustainable success and survival of companies. And I think this is now the big challenge of all of us in order to enable organizations, to profit from B2B marketing. So there is a divergence, but now we have to get the best out of both worlds, structurally, but also in regard to awareness and sensitivity, to really be able to sustainably ensure also conservative industries in a very disruptive as a service, as a Netflix environment where you don't buy products anymore, where you need to change technical sales. We will see dramatic downturns in technical sales. We need to automate marketing and sales. And this is all what comes into play here.
And following this question, your current role is to drive not only the marketing activities, but the whole, as I understand it, the growth of the company. But you started your job in a very traditional industry, yeah? So can you tell us, what was the starting point? What were the challenges you need to overcome to really become, as a marketer, the head of growth? Can we say that?
Yeah, you can put it like that. I keep it always saying, like, from the driven to the driver. I started in a classic department, taking over a department where it was a classic coloring in image. This means it was just the dumb, stupid marketing guys where you put in the work too late, expect the outcome, and we're just the play ball of everybody else. Now, what then I did is I started, and this is exactly what also we wrote in our book, a look at the marketing process library. I started to internally structure the department that everybody was aware what we have to do with deadlines, clear deliverables, so that nobody could use marketing as a play ball at the playground. And I think this was at the core because similar to a person, you can only be authentic if you know what you can, if you have your values, your beliefs, then you become authentic, empathetic, and logic, and then you start growing because you know what you are. Similar with organization development, once in a and that's not only for marketing departments, for all departments. Once a department is not set up structurally, internally structured regarding processes, job descriptions, objectives, you will never be able to perform because you always be play ball because you're internally not authentic. So I started to define structures. We set up a marketing process library of 150 pages and then started to communicate what we do, how we do. We took the organization, create the awareness of how we work. And with this step approach, I could enlarge our area of responsibility by building trust, being transparent what we do, that we carefully spend the others' money, because in those days it was money the others earned. But now we don't have this understanding, we or they, because we contribute substantially to order intake by increasing our inbound leads by over 350% within 6 months. This is enormous.
Yeah.
So we are now a contributor of content and also inbound leads and cash de facto in the end. And this was a journey which is easily deployable wherever you are, because it's a mixture of speaking the language of the C-level, of the managers, of the salespeople, of the people in product management, R&D, and playing the same game and applying the same rules as they have to function in. And this was the game I played, basically steadily developing growth by increasing transparency, trust, being a reliable internal partner. And this is now what helped me to become from the driven to the driver, and no things at all in this business division which we're responsible for are now being done without us. And maybe an interesting side story. After a year in September 2018, I was awarded with another project for another business division with about the double size of the division I'm responsible for, to make a marketing turnaround program to in 1 year to do the turnaround, to do the same, to develop the marketing process library, the structure, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, we could reduce the workforce by 30%, come down with the cost by 40%, and increased more because we could decrease the bounce rate, increase the inbound leads by 2,000%, substantially increase the order intake. And then we ended up by realizing that sales didn't do a proper follow-up because we had like a 2-digit million potential in the CRM line because sales didn't do the follow-up. That's why we came up with a service level agreement with a CRM policy. And after 1 year, I handed over the totally set up turnaround marketing, working properly marketing department with marketing, communication, strategy, and predictive intelligence. And I handed it over back to them. So turnaround is also possible in marketing within a year.
Yeah,
and it was a 500 million order intake department.
Amazing achievement, and that's a great background story for our conversation about the first book. And what amazed me when we've been working on the B2B Marketing Essentials is that actually, the problem you described at the beginning, that if you do not work on a structure, the processes, you are driven, not the driver. And I hear it, very often from marketers complaining that they are not treated seriously, but at the same time, they are trying to avoid the, I call it in the Excel approach. They have the PowerPoint approach. Yeah. Yes. So if the whole management talks the Excel language and you are entering the board and you are using the PowerPoint language, no, that's pretty natural that they are treating you as a, the commercial break, that's a little bit of fun, maybe some colorful, pictures, etc. And then let's get back to the business. Yeah. And that's the huge, problem and challenge for marketers. Yes. That they do need to embrace the process approach. They are trying to, they are afraid, and maybe you will have some guidance about it. They are afraid that if they are become too much structured, they will lose the creativity.
Yes, and
How do you address that?
and Lucas, that's exactly what you wrote in your article about embracing art and science. And think you are totally right. And this is the same opinion, and what I also reflected in the template-based management book.
Mhm.
Yes, there are two different reasons why we are in this situation. First thing is, I think, yes, many marketers complain, but if you don't have the real willingness to change, because I think there are some out there who are quite happy with their protected work environment,
Oh yeah.
just being there, not raising their voice. Yes, that's fine, that's okay. But if you really want to drive something, the structure is an enabler. As you describe in the B2B Marketing Guidebook, even though you think at the beginning that the structure will block you, no, they are the driver, because you have a procedure how to work, and this gives you free time for creativity. But now marketeers, and if you look at the university, the education, the trainings, the curriculums of the marketing uh, 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 studies, they do not cover organization development, process optimization, HR aspects like job description. So we are losing totally out on the basics of organization, how they work. Now, this then plays back because the marketeers are not trained and enabled to speak the language of organizations like process guys, CFOs, COOs, R&D people. They're all process people, even though they lack knowledge in methods and structures. That's another problem. But marketers, we need to enable them to think in structures, to become measurable, and not to be afraid to become measurable, because once they are in this situation to be measurable, then they can show the results. And if they don't deliver upon results, then they can optimize their process. So we have to overcome that anxiousness to become transparent, because this will block us. So it's a problem of education, training, but also our marketing colleagues who are anxious to change their mindset and become measurable. But the strategy must be always to be one step ahead. If I make an investment in market automation tool, I don't go to the board and I need money. I make a pilot, show on a small scale how it works, show results, and then show the picture to my colleagues. This is what we can do if we have a tool. So do force your homework and then ask for something. That's similar. And I have 3 kids. I don't know how many kids you have. Same
Just
thing.
one.
I one. The same thing what I do. If you want something, show me why you want it and why should I give it to you. And it's the same thing. Board members and managers, you have to play with them like with your kids, because why would you expect somebody to give you something for nothing? And I
Yeah.
think this is what we have to come. We have to create the management thinking in the area of B2B marketing.
Yeah, that's a crucial, I would say, crucial skill set for the modern marketers to really, learn how to talk the language of management. To be understandable, to avoid. I call it the muggy water. It's like
Mhm.
it's safe environment, but you are not visible there, and you cannot develop. So we have a nice bridge to the first book, the marketing essentials. And in this book, you are not just talking about the problems, but you give a very tangible tool, which is called the marketing maturity matrix. Can
Yes.
you elaborate a bit about that? Because it's
Yes.
like a backbone of the whole book, I would say, even if it's in the end.
Yeah, the marketing maturity model is something, Lucas, which I made. I made a virtue out of a problem, because I was asked in my different consultancy projects and uh, how they can develop. Uh, where is the benchmark or a matrix to develop where they are? And as since my career as a consultant, more and more started to think in process and work in process, because you need to get the rubber on the road. If you're a meta expert, your problem is that you don't get your rubber on the road if you're not working alongside targets, deliverables, and processes. So I developed this marketing maturity model simply based on what I did within my current job. What did I do from merging from a coloring in department, the driven to the driver, and I developed these 5 stages of which I think are crucial and provide a guidance what to do on which level. And with this little 50-page book, we can then allow our colleagues to get an overview what they have to do, cross check with the assessment test where they are in order to understand where they need to start. And based on this, they can get back to us, ask for guidance, support on a remote consulting, whatever, and lead them through, because we have to also be aware that the organizations in today COVID times need to increase their internal value creation. They cannot afford highly paid consultants on a monthly basis. They have to have a quick call for 200-300 euros and then work on and next time call again. I think this essential provides what you need to get you within an hour in the stage where you are. What is your problem? Based on this assessment, what you get, then one could say, this is what you have to do, step 1, step 2, step 3, then you can start guiding. And then with the right setting and coaching, you will face surprising things, because you will create transparency, you create trust, and then you start moving. And all of a sudden, the organization will follow you, and you will increase your area of responsibility.
Yeah, that's why I like this approach, because many marketers right now, they are pretty aware that they need to change something, but the lack of structure, the lack of guidance. So this is one of the example of very clear, I would not say easy, but a very clear structure, the path to your professional and also personal development as a marketer, and the marketing maturity matrix is actually the place when you are giving yourself an assessment. And I encourage you to be very honest about it, because it's just for you. You don't need to show it to anyone. It's just for you to really define the starting point, and then define the next point you need to get. And it's like a step-by-step approach. So you don't need to really develop a huge plan, etc. Just focus on the next step, and then you'll have the right guidance, how to do it, and also how.
There's no shortcut to success. Starting within this group in June 2017, I never ever anticipated to be in the position to be asked to write these books, to be able to talk about predictive intelligence, to come up with this marketing maturity model. But it is authentically describing what I went through the last 3 years in order to overcome classic conventional problems. And the advantage was that I was not an original marketeer. I'm a manager, a process organization, HR and finance guy. So I look at marketing from a different angle. And I think this is what we need to also realize. And this is, I think it's still simple. And I hope we could put it in our book, Lucas, in a simple way, because as Einstein said, the brilliant people can put complex things in simple words. And I think the feedback is enormous and very positive, and I hope we could facilitate the process and the change. It's about change, and this is why we also integrate the change model that 20% of people in the organization, they will follow you immediately because you're open to anything. 60% are sitting on the fence. You have to convince them, and this was good, especially in areas where you have a lot of technical engineers and technical experts. You need to get their trust to convince them with facts and figures. But the 20%, last 20%, there are no changes, and avoid them. They will only break your neck because they will not follow you. They sit there and we just block everything what you do. And these are also little tricks and tips in regard to change management. And during my time at Deloitte Consulting, I was global responsible for change management programs. So I'm aware of also these issues. And all this comes together in a little cocktail in order to make your life easier, from the coloring in B2B marketing to predictive profit B2B marketing.
Yeah, that's very important in the whole process. The two aspects you just described. The first, the change management. It's not just it will not happen without your conscious approach. This is the first. You need to be aware that people are reacting differently on the new ideas, new projects. And the second, that the good marketer needs to think about the company and the environment. It's not just your department. Of course, it's your team, it's your workplace. But in order to become an effective marketer, you need to think about the company and the different dynamics between sales and product and customer support and board, of course. And this is what I really like in this approach, that you are really touching the skills necessary to develop if you want to go to the next level of the maturity model. That's why I really encourage you, dear marketers, to look at the book. It's available in Polish, and I've had the honor to work with Uwe on the Polish issue. And we'll link all the resources in the description for the podcast. And this is not the only book I want you to talk. I want to talk with you. The second, actually, the first in terms of time was
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Correctly.
exactly, was the Springer book, B2B Marketing from the classroom to the boardroom. And this book is very interesting from several reasons. First, according to my knowledge, this is the first, I would say, European guidebook for B2B marketers. Of course, there are some books in B2B marketing, but they are written from the pretty narrow perspective. And here we have the 30 B2B marketing experts guided by Mr. Uwe Siebacher, and managed in terms of process management and content also, giving a very broad perspective on almost every aspect of B2B marketing. And my first question was it easy to really manage this process? 30
Yes.
people, working on
No,
that.
Lucas, no, it was as a publisher, I published many books,
Ah,
and as a consultant, as a top manager, I managed multi projects, and so this was really. I have to share my gratitude with all of you authors, because the cooperation has been great. You were very responsive. You delivered on
most
time.
of the time.
Yes, on a high level, no everything. But so basically, from this side, it is not a challenge. And I think um, people need guidance and to be led, and I clearly decided or defined what I need. I hope very precise, and this is what I also use when being in as a chief marketing manager officer. I describe precisely what I want from my internal clients in regard to templates such as a profile for a focus campaign, whatever. The better you define what you want, the better people can work up to your expectations. So, and I try to be very precise, so that everybody was aware of what I would need. For the case studies, I predefined a certain structure that all the cases would more or less be in the same way, so that the reader can easily get into the structure of the case studies. And yes, I structured the book also in a storyline alongside the marketing maturity, so that also the reader can looking at the German version is over 700 pages and the English version 450 pages. So if you take a look at page 300, you know that you are further down the road in regard to market maturity. If you, for example, look at the first case study, that's an entry-level case study. If you look at the last case study, that's the last case describing the 365 days marketing turnaround, a complex, sophisticated project, so the reader can easily find themselves where they are. So it was not a big challenge for me. It was, for me, self-surprising, and also for Springer. They expected the book not to be finished by next year, so they're very surprised, and we got great feedback from Springer. They like the content. They're happy to say it's a unique book, and so I'm very happy. And as I'm only the Sherpa of the project, I can only share my gratitude with all of you, the authors.
Yeah, and also it was also a very valuable project for me, because I wrote a book for the Polish market, let's say B2B marketing essentials when you translate it into English. But the cross country perspective, the cross European perspective, really
Mhm.
really broadened the view. And sometimes, especially people in Poland, and probably in every country, think that we are unique. Our problems are unique. You don't have such problems here in Germany, Austria, Spain, etc. And then you read the book and you see the same problems, the same challenges, lack of alignment between sales and marketing, lack of kind of trust for marketing approach. And that's was my first kind of surprise. And what I really like in the book is these are the case studies, because then you see the stories, then you see the real, when the rubber meets the road moment. Yeah, you can start building your knowledge based on that. and you see, and then you see that it's not like a theoretical approach. It's a very practical approach, and there are people from many different angles. Yeah, there are consultants, people from just practitioners, managers, many different people working on a very unique project. I must say, and of course, we will link to it. It's in a pre-order right now, and actually, this is like again the we can call it a guidance from the classroom, which means from the very beginning, from the very base of your career to the top of the notch to the boardroom. But also, I can understand it from you need to focus on a base to be ready to talk to the boardroom. In order to be
Exactly.
let's
Yes.
say accountable
Right.
marketer. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really interesting project. Not just because I was a part of that, but I had an opportunity to really talk to the people and hear many different stories, but very similar problems and challenges they try to
Exactly.
they try to overcome.
Exactly. Exactly,
So
Lucas.
Uwe, at the end of our conversation, because times fly really
Mhm.
fast, I would like you to give two advices. First, for a marketer who is just starting her or his career in a B2B marketing,
Mhm.
what should be the what should the person focus on? And the second is the CEO who want to really build a very effective B2B marketing team or operations. What's your advices
Mhm.
for these two
Mhm.
people?
In order to answer the first question,
Mhm.
um, if somebody wants to get started B2B marketing, I think it is essential not to get burned, and to be aware of what is the objective. Do you want to work in a protected environment where you make your brochures and you want to design brochures? Then you need to look for something different in regard to your boss in the environment, compared to if you really want to move something and create sales, cash, really substantially, intangibly contribute to the sustainable corporate success of the organization you will be working for. And therefore, you need to get an understanding whether your future boss can more or less, if I put it like this, spell marketing or not, and what his objective is. If he is a conventional technical engineer who is of the opinion that he just has to refill this position because it's existing, but there's no added value for marketing, then it's not the point to get in there, because you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be in this coloring department. So carefully select the future boss and the expectation. Ask for the objectives for the position. What are the targets for this year, next year? What does he want your future boss to realize within your job and with his marketing department? That's at the core, I guess,
Mhm.
because you need to do management of expectation. If you are really looking for moving something, you need a boss who wants to move something, who is aware of the significant changes in B2B marketing. And I tell you, 80% of the managers in conventional industries are not yet there where we need to be in regard to awareness and sensitivity of what B2B marketing can contribute and play to companies in the future. This is one thing. The second question is, what has a CEO to uh, acknowledge in order to develop a predictive profit B2B marketing department? First thing is, he has clearly to be aware and make him aware of what B2B marketing can contribute, and that it will contribute substantial part of the order intake in future years. If he has overcome that point, is aware of that, he needs to find a marketeer who is not a pure marketer, but also is a person thinking in structures, coming from organizational background, has a wider perspective how organizations work, and not a pure creativity marketing focus, because that's not enough. A marketeer of tomorrow needs to be a merger of IT, process, HR, and innovator, because the MarTech stack, the technology, enables automation of processes. You have to manage IT, manage expectation, get on board with sales to do sales enablement, manage the sales channels and sales partners. So that's a totally new perspective of people who are looking at competencies, and he has to be aware of that. And then find a person who can play the entire portfolio of the skill set, IT, HR, strategy, and process, and then add on, have a marketing background, maybe from B2C or B2B. Then he can really and will be able to establish a chief revenue officer or chief success officer and merge sales and marketing, have one budget, because then you never have the problem of that sales will say they're spending our money responsibly or not. It has to, we will face the situation of chief success manager, chief revenue managers being able to then have the entire value chain from lead generation, lead nurturing, lead scanning, customer journeys, touch point management, customer experience, up to market qualified leads, sales qualified leads, cash. Cash counts, and B2B marketing will be the cash contributor in the future because technical sales will change dramatically.
Yeah, that's perfect summary of our conversation, and I just cannot to really repeat it. If you really want to become a effective marketer, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to look at the whole organization and really talk the, let's say, the money language, the Excel language, not the PowerPoint language, because this is the language of business, not the colorful pictures, etc. It's needed. It's sometimes necessary, but it's not enough to really go from the baseline to the boardroom, from the classroom to the boardroom. In order to get there, you need to learn the language of the boardroom. Uwe, there was a great conversation as always. When can we get to know more about your books? How can we follow your publishing?
Lucas, the books are online. We have a LinkedIn group. We are online. I would love to come to you to make a coaching where we have the people asking questions. We need to initiate the dialogue to enable CMOs, CEOs, our dear colleagues. I think there's a huge opportunity market. I can only encourage you to contact me, to let me know how we can help. Of course, it's difficult to travel, but in October, September, October, there might be a chance. I'm going to be running speeches in October in the B2B Marketing Days. I'm having a conference in Boston in October. So I think we need to now use the momentum of getting our community together. I'm more than happy to run a keynote, run a seminar there, that we go through the book, the content, in order to enable the group of people. Just let me know how I can be of help. I'm more than happy to share all the knowledge. It's no rocket science. It's just success is a result of a little journey, step by step. I can only encourage you to take advantage of all our knowledge, Lucas, right?
Definitely, and I actually have some ideas, and I just don't want to share before we really discuss it. But we have a very nice a group of people attending our webinars, and it's like they are very interactive. So we can start with that if you are interested.
Excellent.
We can arrange that. So Uwe, once again, thank you very much for your time and your knowledge and your work with the books, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk much more about the B2B marketing and the modern business approach. Thanks a lot.
It would be great. My pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation, Lucas. It was a great pleasure and honor to talk to you, and all stay healthy and stay safe.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I to już wszystko w naszym odcinku, wywiadzie z Uwe Siebacherem. Jeśli mogę podsumować, to tutaj jest 3 rzeczy, na które warto zwrócić uwagę. Po pierwsze, marketerzy, jeżeli chcą rzeczywiście awansować i rozwijać swoje kompetencje i mieć znaczenie w organizacji, muszą wyjść poza obszar takiej mętnej wody, czy jak to Uwe nazwał, takiego chronionego środowiska pracy. Tam nic dobrego już na Was nie czeka. Trzeba zacząć mierzyć swoje działania, ale też wprowadzić pewne procesy i procedury, które pokażą osobom spoza marketingu, że posługujecie się językiem zarządzania, że to są rzeczy, którymi można zarządzać, można optymalizować i wtedy przejmujecie trochę kontrolę. I to jest właśnie ten drugi element. Marketing musi być samodzielnym zespołem. To znaczy musi wpływać na organizację, a nie tylko pozwolić czy pozwalać organizacji wpływać na siebie. Ale żeby to zrobić, trzeba pokazać, że to, co robicie, przekłada się na efekty, czyli właśnie najpierw uporządkowanie, a potem pomiar tego, co robicie, często na początku w niewielkiej skali, żeby pokazać tak zwany proof of concept, a potem skalować. W ten sposób rozmawiacie językiem, który rozumie zarząd. I trzeci element to jest takie wyjście poza myślenie tylko i wyłącznie o działalności marketingowej. Jeżeli jako marketer chcesz rzeczywiście mieć wpływ na organizację, to musisz zrozumieć jej pozostałe elementy. Musisz rozumieć sprzedaż, produkcję, HR, tak jak Uwe wspomniał, no i umieć się porozumieć z zarządem, bo wtedy tak naprawdę będziesz umiała wytłumaczyć, przełożyć to, co dzieje się w marketingu na rezultaty biznesowe, czy to właśnie sprzedażowe, czy to związane z rozwojem produktu, czy z rozwojem osób w organizacji. Więc warto pamiętać o tym, że dobry marketer, który chce się rozwijać, musi wyjść poza taki klasyczny obszar dziedziny marketingowej, bo my zbyt często myślimy o marketingu jako tylko i wyłącznie komunikacji marketingowej. Marketing to jest element strategii firmy. Bez dobrego marketingu nie ma dobrej strategii firmy. No i tego Wam życzę, żebyście być może korzystając z tych zasobów, o których powiedzieliśmy, czyli książki Podstawy Marketingu B2B i B2B Marketing from the Classroom to the Boardroom, ten progres sobie zaplanowali i go zrealizowali. Wielkie dzięki.